Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Paint Party live stream. It's so good to be with you again in the studio this week. This is my Learn to Paint process. So every week on Monday evenings, I meet you here in my studio and wherever you're watching on the internet as I learn to paint, teaching myself to paint. I've been doing this for the last couple of years, teaching myself to paint. At least every week I get into the studio with you all, kind of looking over, or kind of literally looking over my shoulder as we go. Wherever you are watching this show, you can join in the conversation through the comments on whatever platform you're watching us on. And I do enjoy engaging with you throughout the live stream. It's really informal. It's kind of like an open house. Just pop in, pop out, stay as long as you'd like. We start a new painting every evening or every week, Monday evening, and I try to get through as much of the painting as possible in the hour or two that I'm with you. You can also follow me on Instagram to see all the progress photos from paintings that I complete after the live stream, so you can keep kind of informed in that way as well. So good to have you. All right, let's jump in. It's good to see some of our normal attendees. Lola, it's so good to have you. Thanks for joining us. This last week, I've been working pretty fastidiously to finish some paintings. I wrapped up the painting of the man walking down the streets of Lisbon toward the cathedral. I think I showed you that one last week, so that's actually already up on my wall, so I'm not going to show it to you physically this evening, but you can check that out to see kind of the final version on Instagram. Then last night, actually, I just finished the detail work on this one. We've been working on this one for weeks and weeks and weeks. You'll remember that we started this one with kind of bright, almost a sunset or sunrise, where it was kind of purple hues and yellows, and that didn't really work. So I went back to be more, I guess, dedicated to the reference photo, and that's how this is how this one turned out. I took a lot of the background information out, the wall and the trees and things in the back, and I just made it the open ocean. So this is probably not very realistic, but it's docked there right in the open ocean. But was really pleased with how this turned out. Did a lot of the detail work on the boat and repainted a lot of that and got it where I'm happy with it, with the level of skill that I have right now. So this one will be going up on the wall quickly once I get it varnished and it is sealed. So wanted to show that to you. All right, let's jump in, and I'm always forgetting my apron, so I'm going to put that on first. Welcome to those of you that are popping in once we already started. So glad to have you all. Again, you can join us in the in the comments wherever you're watching, and I'll show you what we're going to paint this evening. It's a very simple subject, but I think it will be an impactful one if we can do it correctly. So I am going to turn you all over here because I'm going to set up. Oh, I am upside down. Good grief. There we are. I am going to, hi there, Mom. So glad to see you guys. I am going to set up my camera, but first let me show you what we're going to be working on this evening. Where is it? There it is. This is the reference photo that we're going to work on this evening. So it's a very simple reference and a simple subject. I'm actually going to distort the perspective and the ratios a little bit. I'm going to be doing that on a big long canvas. This is the same size as the sailboat, just turned on its side. So we're going to do that, and so we will have to kind of adjust the perspective and the ratios of the sky to the ocean, but that's part of the process. So yeah, you'll see as we go. And if I am lucky enough to get this to work, I think it will be a really cool painting. So that's what we're going to do. All right, let me get you all set up. I'm turning in circles and tying all my cords up. So if y'all could actually see how this is all rigged up, you'd probably just be surprised at kind of how janky the process is. All right. Let me get this set up so you can see as much of the canvas as possible. It's probably going to be a little bit more challenging this time because it is a long canvas. So we'll do what we can to try to get that all set. I am zoomed out as far as I can go. At least there's nothing that will be, because it's mostly going to be laying in the color. So let's try that. All right, here we go. All right, so the reference here will take up some of your canvas, but we're just going to be laying in the color mostly. So we'll put this in so you can kind of see what I'm mixing. And then I'm going to bring my stool over and we will get started. The key, I think, for success in this painting is, of course, the pastels, or the mood or tone of the painting. And so we want to get this laid out on the canvas as smoothly as possible. So we'll have to apply it very quickly. This is the times where I need a kind of a 2-inch brush probably just to be able to do broad swaths, but I do not have that, so we will do what we can do and try to make it as efficient and effective as possible. I think this is the widest brush I have, which is probably 1 inch, maybe 1.25 inches. Actually, oh, it's probably 1 inch. Nope, I was right, 1.25 inches. At least at the end of the bristles. So, all right. What I want to do is figure out the point at which the color changes. So we'll try to mix as we go, but I think we're going to go yellow, and then yellow, orange, red, purple, and then we have the reflection. So we'll bump this down about 2/3 down will be the horizon instead of the middle. You'll notice in our reference photo it's kind of in the middle, but we'll do 2/3 because I think the sky is going to be the focal point of this painting. So let's get started mixing some color. Welcome to those who are joining just now. So glad to have you. I'm going to put out some white and some lemon yellow, which is going to be our bright, like pastel yellow. And then I'm going to put some yellow or cadmium yellow hue. That will be our more orangey yellow. And then you can probably just, let's see. We could probably mix our orange with yellow and red, but we'll see how that goes. Put all the colors kind of as I'm going to use them. And then when we do the purple, we'll use some ultramarine blue and white. And we'll see how that goes. All right. Let's go. This yellow is going to be super translucent, so we'll take that in and we'll diffuse it a little with, because we want it super light up at the top. We'll just start laying that in. That may even be more dark than we want, but that's all right because this is just the first layer. We'll probably have to do a couple layers of this, but I want to practice it a little bit before we get going, because the canvas will soak this up. We want tons of paint in there. Yellow. This will come down. We'll take it a little bit further than it is on the reference because we're extending the sky down. Sorry, I'm taking this off your out of sight. I wanted to do the edges. At least the main edges. All right. Then we'll... Hey there, Taco. So good to have you. Thanks for joining. I also always love to have Twitch folks join me. I've been using acrylics as long as I've been painting, so about 2 years. About 2 years is my answer to that. About 2 years. I wanted to learn the fundamentals before I tried to jump into oils. I don't know that that's necessary, but it helped me. Oils just seemed really intimidating when I started. I think now I would be fine. And it'll be, I'm sure when I do jump into oil, it's going to be an adjustment for sure. But now I have enough of a foundation that I think I could do it. Now notice I'm mixing here. You could see that gradient start to come. I took just a little of this cad yellow and my lemon yellow and white, and I'm diffusing that down so we should be able to still, as long as we go quick enough, it's still wet enough that we can blend in. That's one of the difficulties with that I couldn't have done 2 years ago. It's a difficulty with acrylics is they dry so fast, and I was not a fast enough painter where I couldn't blend quickly enough, but I think I've gained a little bit of skill, and this is just basically going across the canvas, so it's not too difficult to blend or to paint very quickly, obviously, although it is soaking in and drying very fast. So, and the problem with, one of the difficulties with acrylic is that they dry very, very quickly. So, and they dry darker than you apply them. So I'm looking at this thinking, oh, that's a beautiful gradient, when it may not be. It may have it may be much more stark. Like, see, I can see that line in there. And so as it dries, that's part of the challenge. Okay, I'll just bring some of this red in. I'll diffuse it with a little of white so we get that pink color. By mixing this all on palette, it really helps to, oh, that's really dark. We'll have to, so we'll try to mix that up. Blend out the harsh lines, but this pink is what we're going for, so that's what we'll. One thing you can do, if you add a little bit of white, that can help you blend if something's starting to dry more quickly than you want. Sometimes you can go and take white and then go upward with the white. Just trying to avoid harsh lines as much as possible. Okay, now we're going to cool it way down. Yes, you're absolutely right. I do have water here to the side to clean my brushes, and I sometimes use that. But I don't tend to. If I need to, when I was first learning, I used a blending medium. And yeah, I have done that, but I decided it is more difficult though because I live in the mountains and we have very dry air up here, so it all dries much faster than even down, where I was, where it's humid. So now I'm trying to blend this without getting it so it stays a purple without turning it into a green, mixing with the red. That's but I think we're getting it. I think it's okay to do this a little bit. What do y'all think? Not bad for a college try. Okay. Now we need, I think, actually I put it back, but I think I'm going to take some phthalo blue. Oh, I dropped a bunch of, pardon me, the noise in the background. I dropped a bunch of paints. Probably don't need this much. A little phthalo blue, because then we get kind of this diffused, want to diffuse it a lot. Take a little yellow, a little red. We want this probably a bit more diffused, but we want kind of a, down here, then we want this kind of cooler color that is the water. And if I were smarter, maybe I would have put in the, painted around the reflection, but we'll just see how this goes. All right, I think we're getting a pretty good gradient. And it covered pretty well the first time. So I'm I'm wondering whether I want to actually go back and redo this and risk messing it up. We'll let it dry a little bit and we'll talk about that, because I'm not sure that we want to do that. It looks much darker on your screen than it looks on the actual canvas, just so you're kind of aware of how it's looking. I'll try to back up a little bit maybe and show you what it's doing. It has to do with how my camera auto exposes for light. Wonder if I turn it off. Nope, it looks about the same, doesn't it? All right, well, I'm going to now stand back. Let me pull y'all back so you can see a little bit. I wonder if I turn this off, because you're getting that glare, or maybe raise it. Oh, you're still getting the glare. You can see kind of what it's set up as. So I'm pretty happy with that. This is a little more harsh than maybe it should be, but not too bad, not too bad. I really like how the yellow and this blended. So yeah, I think I'm gonna leave that and just let that dry for a minute so it's completely dry. And then I think what we should do is, I'm gonna put this here. Sorry, I don't mean to make you all sick. I think what I should do is come in here and start putting in immediately, do the light reflections there and the shadows here. This will be all condensed, so about the bottom half of the reference will be condensed into here. So I want to put a few bits of reflection and then some, just to give some feeling of depth. And then we can start putting in the stalks of this beach grass or whatever it is. I'm just taking a minute to stand back and look and make sure that's exactly what I want to do. And let me see. Whoa, I don't understand what's going on here. My iPad is suddenly acting weird on me. As soon as I start to zoom out, it gets really foggy or out of focus. I'm not sure why. Probably some setting, because it's every time I do that. That's so weird. That's never done that. Yeah, as soon as I go, okay, that's all right. We'll figure something out. All right, got some photos because I always wait. I've been painting for, I started with oil and then did acrylic. I found I much prefer acrylic. Makes mistakes with acrylic, little water and some paint. So where oil, you really got to cover mistakes. How much can be done otherwise to fix? Yes, I agree. Yeah, unless you catch the mistake before the oil dries and you basically scrape the paint and repaint the whole thing. That's one other reason I started with acrylic, so that I could, if I had messed, or even if I went and tried to get this better and it turned out worse, worst case is I just repaint the whole thing. And that's what happened with the sailboat painting that I showed at the beginning of the live stream. I painted it probably 3 or 4 times at least. This one, where I changed the color scheme, I repainted this, I repainted the dock 2 or 3 times, I repainted the water 2 or 3 times, I repainted the sky. So yeah, acrylics are very forgiving in that way, especially if you're learning like I am. Okay, I'm going to move you all back closer. And then as I was learning, then I was able to repaint. And when you mess something up, like last night when I redid the sky, I knew exactly what I wanted to do on the boat painting because I had painted it 3 or 4 times. So, all right. I think our canvas is pretty dry. I'm going to pick up some of this paint that fell, put it back up on my counter. Okay, so let's dive in again. Whoops, excuse me. Yeah, this is pretty dry, and I am pretty happy with how this, how that turned out. That's a little more harsh over here. I didn't blend it quite as much, but I'm not too worried about that. So I think now what I'm going to do is go to a different brush, and I think I'm going to take a dagger brush, which is this dagger looking guy, and we're just going to go in and start to put in some of the reflection in this darker area. So the reflection is actually, if you look on the reference photo, it's actually even a more muted version of this. So let's mix that again. I'll actually use another brush to mix, because this dagger brush isn't that great. Well, let's see. We want a very fine orange, so we'll take some red, and I need to put more. Hey there. Thanks so much, Daniel. So good to see you. Always appreciate you popping in as you can when you're on the commute. We'll take this red and we'll take the yellow. We'll make a beautiful orange. And then we'll take plenty of white. And the white will desaturate the color. Notice how it actually looks, again, darker on your screen. But we'll take it. That's a little orangey. We want a little more pink, so I'm going to take some of this crimson and a cooler red and pink it down a little bit. All right, it's pretty pink. So we'll again take some yellow, or some white, I mean. Needs to be really diffused. So, because again, it's going to dry much darker. So we'll diffuse it quite a bit. Bring more and more white in. Okay, see if this works. This is how it happens. We just try something, then we'll see if it works. So we'll go in here and we'll start putting in some, I think about here, we'll start putting in some reflections. And we want to keep it pretty. And as we get closer, there's some areas that are... So what happens on water when you're painting water or looking at water or taking pictures of water is you have the part that looks lighter, of course, is the reflection of the sky, which makes sense. You're getting this reflection of the sky. But the part that looks darker then is actually where the light is not reflecting and it's kind of refracting so that your eye sees essentially what's under the water or looks through the water, and there's no reflection. So that's what causes it to look darker and then lighter, if that makes sense. And if you understand a little bit of the physics, I am not a scientist at all, but if you understand a little bit of the physics, then all of a sudden you start to be able to create these illusions that really work for you. So we'll go in here, we'll kind of give these spots some we'll just kind of be creative with how this is going down. I think I'm going to switch out my brush because this dagger brush is good for some things, but it's actually a little bit too long. So I think I'm going to switch to a smaller that I have a little more control of. This is difficult a little bit because it's so dry. The paint is so dry underneath that you have to really work with it. This is actually a little more. What we can do is take now some of this blue and again turn it into almost a green. Take a lot of white, diffuse that, really, really light. Clean out your brush first. That's the key. Okay. Now, we'll take some of this and see if we can do, I don't know if it'll work, but we can kind of testing. It'll probably look too bright, but I'm trying to test how this looks. Painting the, oh, it kind of works. The green against the, because you'll notice there's kind of a blue where you're getting between the, you're seeing the bottom of the water. We'll keep working on this, see what we get. Then the goal is to kind of blend this forward into the, I'm doing basically just kind of back and forth paint strokes to kind of create the movement or perception of water again. Now I have to go back and kind of correct some of this because I don't want it to look like there's, I mean, it could look like there's rolling waves or, you know, waves are turning, but I want it to look relatively tranquil out there. So my paint has already dried on the palette. I guess I should turn it so you can see what I'm mixing there. This kind of blue. No mistakes. What did Bob Ross say? Just happy accidents. Yes, sir. So good to see you again, Bob. It was great catching up with you, but glad to have you on the live stream, as always. Okay, I want to go back and do a little bit more of this kind of sky color. So I want to take it's almost like a Pepto-Bismol color now. Not quite. Pepto-Bismol is a little darker, but turn it back. Mixing here, it's almost a pink. You can't almost see it against the almost can't see it against the palette there. So this should give us a, we'll see what that looks like. Yeah, it's giving us a very nice clear reflection off the water or off the sky. Ultimately, I want to get this as good as possible, and then because then this all is not covered, but it's background to the main attraction, which are these stalks of grass. Again, this is such a simple subject, but if we get it right, it's going to be, I think, it's going to look really cool. Well, once you start painting, and again, once you understand a little bit of the physics of how light's reflected on the water, then all of a sudden you start to be able to create waves that are, water formations that look like they're supposed to be there. That makes sense. All right. Now when it comes up here then against the shore, and again it gets more muted as it gets closer because the light is further back. It's coming from over there. So it's not shining as directly down here. So it's going to be brighter back here. And that helps create the illusion of depth as well. Notice that these are a little brighter. These highlights back there are a little brighter. We can probably actually step them up a little bit. I don't want to go too ridiculous, but oh no. Whoops. May have to switch out. Excuse my head right in your line of sight. I'm going to switch out my palettes. I still have the other one off to the side, but I'm going to bring this over here to actually mix it. Because that's the other thing, when you get a lot of dried paint on your palette with acrylic, it then becomes flakes in your paint, so, or flakes in your brush, so you don't want to do that. Okay, let's see if we can emphasize this a little bit. Again, that will give us more of a then it will feel further back. It'll give us that illusion of depth that we're going for. We'll do a few of these highlights in the foreground. Because of how the sun just, if you'll notice, that happens there. Want to straighten that out because it looked like a giant wave was coming in there. Okay, I think that's good. Then what I do want to do, I think, is following the reference photo, I do want to mix a brighter orange closer down here, a more vibrant, less diluted orange. Does anybody want to guess why this would be, this reflection up here right on the beach would be much less or would be more saturated than back here. I think I have a laggy camera, don't I? Anybody want to? Hazard a guess why it's much more saturated up here? Why is this more saturated as it gets up on the beach? It is closer to you. Yes, it's closer. What is happening to the light? What is happening to the light as it gets? Because it should be that this brightest or most intense part is closest to the light source, based on what I said earlier, right? Could also be that I'm just like pulling this out of a hat and making up things too. Hopefully no physicist ever joins our merry little band and says, that's not how light works at all. You're completely wrong. Define saturated. Saturated is the intensity of the color. So this is kind of an orangey red. This is the same tone, just desaturated, meaning there's more white in it, less intense color, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. And there's probably a technical term and technical reasons why this is the way it is, but I don't know for sure. So my question then was, why am I painting it more saturated up here as we get closer when the light source is out over here somewhere? And we can assume it is because it's less over here, less saturated, but it's still bright. So a little bit kind of a purple color. Here's what I think, y'all. So let me kind of give my hypothesis and see if this makes sense to y'all. So my hypothesis is, in this reference, the light's actually setting off the left-hand side. And so technically this is closer to the light. I'd say that because this part of the beach is a little bit less saturated than the center. But my thought is that what am I trying to say? My thought is that it's also more shallow up here. So the angle at which the light reflects off the beach is more slanted. And so you get, because it's more shallow, my guess is, or my thought is, that is why you get some of this more intense reflection, because it's literally skimming across our eyes sees the light skimming across the top of the water. That's my guess. So who knows if that's correct, but that's my guess. That's what I'm sticking to. So, but we need to make this look not murky and muddy. I want it to stand out. So I think I need to take a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I need to highlight that. Let's see what that does. Yeah, I think that's what we want to do. Now I want to do the same thing with a little bit of the orange. So I want to take a little bit of that, a little bit of that, create the orange. Some white. It's all a game of balance and contrast. There we go. And then I think I want to give some anchoring. Yes, it is the sand. It's because basically there's up here on the ground. There's just a little film of water over the sand, and most of it is just you're directly reflecting the sky. So, but I do want to take now a little bit of this, and I think I'll do a little bit of this brown, because now we're going to go to the, as we do the stalks of the grass, we're going to take brown and a little orange, a little red. Okay. I'm mixing a darker, let me turn this around, a darker color, kind of a greenish brown here, because I do want to indicate some like ground here. I want to ground it a little bit, like, and should have mixed more. I do want to have some feeling that you're getting close to the shore. So we'll put this in there like it is in the reference photo. It's where the sand has maybe just piled up, or it's where we're not getting any reflection at all. And I want to put little suggestions of that out here. This will give us again also some suggestion of perspective. That there's little ripples in the water. Now we're getting too mixy-matchy, so we'll tone that out. I don't want this to be take some of this. We'll go over that with, I just added a little white to that so that it's not as stark. Still is a little bit aggressive. All right, I'm going to step back for a minute because I need to do that. I get a little bit of a idea of what it looks like. Okay, I notice that it feels like this end is fading off the edge of the canvas. So I want to remix a little bit of this orange, see if I can. I want to even that out a little bit. Felt a little bit off. I've deviated from the reference a little bit. This looks like it's water, and it's actually, well, it could be water actually, because it just blends into the sky on the reference, doesn't it? You don't really know. It's like, we don't really know what this is. It's just kind of out there. Trying to just even this out a little bit because it was also uneven. Looked like the ocean was going to slide off the side of the... All right, I really like this a lot. So let's just not mess with it too much more. Let's do this. Let's now, I'm going to do, I think, the rest of this standing up. Ooh, it's warm in here. We finally got spring. And I am in the attic, and so, and the windows are not opened yet for the spring. So, all right, let me put this a little bit so you're looking, whoa, sorry, a little more, again, over my shoulder. And I'm backing you up quite a bit so you can see the whole painting. I may obstruct some of your view. Let's see if I come in here. No. You get a little bit of my shoulder, but not too bad. All right. Now, I think what I want to do is paint the main stalks of grass. Okay, let's see. Where's my other paintbrush? There it is. This will be my detail brush. All right, I think what I should do is put in the main all right, I mixed so much that I have very little space to mix now. So I'm just taking brown and burnt umber, or raw umber, I mean, and mixing an almost black. What did I say? Brown and raw umber and ultramarine blue, mixing an almost black. And what I want to do now is take that and begin to draw in the composition of the, so and Yeah. The challenge is not to mess this up, because if we mess this up, then we're really in trouble, in the sense that we can't repaint easily the underpainting or the sky. So I want to do this well. Want to begin to put in the oh, I lost my phone, or lost my, sorry. Yes, I took some pictures. I did not take this picture, meaning it's not my reference, if that's what you're asking, Bob G. Or Lola, sorry. I did not take this photo, but I took a picture when I stepped back, yes. The thing is, if I get these like basic shapes right, I can always come back and do some refining. This is really satisfying. It's really nice to get to a place where I can have a reference, see a vision, and actually create for the most part, what's in my head. Because I think that's where a lot of, especially beginning artists, really probably get frustrated, because you spend so much time and you develop your skill, and then it's It doesn't, you can't create what you see in your head. So that is really frustrating, I think. I imagine, having gone through this myself now. This is looking really cool, isn't it, y'all? Not to brag on myself, but, and I think we're going to get it done in the time allotted, which is fun for both of us, since I have like 20 paintings at my feet that need to be finished. I've been trying to, a lot of times, the only, life gets busy and such, and the only time I get into the studio is when I'm with you all. So I realize that if I want to improve it at the pace that I want to improve, I have to do much more than that. So I am trying to spend more time in the studio finishing paintings. All right. Really like this. I'm debating how many of these stems I want in the picture, because I really like this and how it's framed. I don't know if I want just, because I like it kind of going this direction. So I think I'm going to, what do you all, if you all have, thank you. I'm pleased so far. If y'all have suggestions or opinions one way or another, feel free to opine. I think I will. I'm thinking about bringing those that are in the center kind of over here and putting them like up. I don't know if that'll make it too lopsided though. I think let's just keep building a little bit at a time. I like it just the way you have it now. I do think I want some painting, or I do want some that are, I think maybe these just keep them very low and then have another one, like, let's see if I can do this. Because I do want some that flop over. I don't want them all just growing like this, if that makes sense. I just have to be super patient. It's hard for me to paint. These were easy because I'm left-handed and I was going left, but then coming back the other direction is a little more challenging. Makes me want to just flip which I may do at some point. I see the beach in Yakuts, Oregon, or in about 90 minutes from now. Yes, that would be nice. That's what I want the viewer to feel, though. I want them to feel like they know this place, or they could know this place. Like I've been there, or I could be there. It's much more difficult to draw these. Maybe I'll turn them like this. I didn't expect this, so I apologize. But it's a lot easier to draw them standing up. Oh yeah. And trying to do it the other way. All right. Actually, see, we keep adjusting on the fly. I'm going to put in all of the stalks that I want, and then I'm going to go refine them. How's that sound? Because then I can turn it. So I do think I want kind of in the center here, I want that biggest one, the big furry one. All right, we got about 10 minutes to finish this bad boy up, so let's do it. I think we do the whoops, sorry. Now I'm going back and trying to do the detail work. Thank you to those of you who have stuck with me this whole time. You know what I wish I had space for? I wish I had a big studio, like a commercial studio, and I could do painting like this on like a 5x10 or something, like feet, like huge. I think it would look really cool. But the only place you could really that would like, you'd have to have it like in a gallery, like, or a, you know, like enter it in a competition where, because that's just too big for most situations. But it would be a really striking painting. Giant sized, I think. The more I paint these, though, the better I'm getting at them. At least in my opinion. I guess I shouldn't be using my finger for this. I should be using a knife. But All right, we're almost to the end, so I thought I'd get this done. I'm not sure I'm going to do it quite, but pretty close. So, a couple more minutes. Basically, all I have left then is the stems, which is a little challenging because I have to get them, they have to be thin enough that they look correct. So all right. And then it's hard to see on the reference, but there is a slight highlight or glow around these, so I'll probably take a very dark sap green and highlight those, and that gives it the effect of the sun shining around it. So that's probably the last minute things I'll add. Just to give it a little more depth here in the foreground, because this is the closest thing to us, and so we see it. More detail. Ooh, that's a good idea. I've wondered, because that's a challenge for me, because I have very thin brushes, but they don't always, like, the paint has to be super thin too for it to glide, especially acrylics. Maybe in oil it's different. But all right, well, I'm pretty happy with that. What do you all think? Composition wise, I think we made some good choices. There, you can see it straight on. And I am going to take a another progress photo real quick. All right, I will bring you back to center, so that way I can say goodbye and good night to all of you. Excuse me while I reset my phone camera. All right. Good deal. Here we are. Want to say thank you so much for joining me for this really fun one. I think it's one of my favorites that I've done, just because what I painted and what I imagined I was able to do as far as stretching the proportions, and I like this composition with the taller ones over here and then the lower ones. This just makes me really happy, and I think it's going to be beautiful once I get all the stems painted in and a little bit of a highlight put on. So thanks so much for joining me. As I said at the beginning of the live stream, you can follow me on Instagram to see the progress photos of final paintings, and I also post there on my story as I paint periodically. When I'm working in the studio, I'll post that as well, even if I don't finish the painting, on my Instagram story. So you can join me there. Otherwise, we will see you next week, next Monday, for the 102nd episode of the Paint Party live stream. I look forward to seeing you then. Until then, everyone have a great night, and I'll see you next week.